the life and legacy of the commander of the faithfuls, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam, the first man in Islam, the cousin of the Prophet, his son-in-law, the first defender and supporter of the Prophet. We will discuss his sacrifice and his contributions over 30 episodes. So please join me. I'm your brother, Moustafa Qazwini. Assalamu alaikum. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, our praise and gratitude are due to Him. May His peace and blessings be upon all our messengers and the seal of the messengers, Muhammad, his immaculate family, his righteous companions. May the peace of God be on you, upon you, and surrounding you, my brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, dies, and he leaves this world, and he goes to his Lord in the next one. A day of shock and sadness and grief for his family, for Bani Hashim, for the pious companions of the Prophet who loved him, who helped him, who cherished him, who stood with him. But at the time of his death, only Bani Hashim were with the Prophet in the room. And the Prophet was putting his head on Ali's lap. وَفَاضَتْ رُوحُهُ بَيْنَ صَدْرِ وَنَحْرِ. The Prophet was putting his head on his chest, on Ali's chest, and there he breathed the last. Something dramatic happened. Umar and Abu Bakr and others were there. So Umar came out. He was raised his sword and he shouts, "Inna rijalan min al-munafiqeen." There are some hypocrites. They claim that the Prophet died. The Prophet did not die. He did what Moses did. He just went to meet his Lord and come back. Inna rijalan min al-munafiqeen. This is in the book of many books, but I just give one reference for those of you who need to do further investigation. الكامل في التاريخ لابن الأثير. إن رجالا من المنافقين يزعمون أن رسول الله قد مات إنه والله ما مات ولكنه ذهب إلى ربه كما ذهب موسى بن عمران. He didn't die. He just went to meet his Lord. But there was a reason why Umar was saying this, because he was waiting for Abu Bakr, who happened to be outside the city, to come back to Medina. So Abu Bakr came, and then he went inside the house, removed the cover from the face of the Prophet, and he saw the Prophet is dead, and he came out and he said, من كان يعبد محمدا فإن محمدا قد مات ومن كان يعبد الله تعالى فإن الله حي لا يموت. Whoever was worshipping Muhammad, Muhammad is dead. But whoever worships God, God is not dead. And then Abu Bakr and Umar and Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, they left the house. They left the house where the Prophet was still there, laid down. He's not buried yet. He just died. People are in pain and anguish. the three left to a meeting. The meeting was, let me speak about the meeting and what meeting was. Many people do not know about this incident. There was a place called Saqifa to Bani Sa'ida. Saqifa was a platform, a place of meeting. The tribe was called Banu Sa'ida. And that belongs to Al-Ansar, the helpers, who are the indigenous, the inhabitants of Medina. Ansar, they realized that something wrong is going on. Before the death of the Prophet, this wasn't a secret. Everybody knew that there will be a conflict. It is very inevitable. It will take place because they saw the political divisions. They saw that some people are preparing themselves to grab the power should Muhammad die. And these things happened many years before the death of the Prophet. Not days or weeks, rather years. And the Muslims were composed of many rival tribes. The Muhajirin, they were composed of different tribes that they had rivalry between them and competition. And remember, always remember something in mind, that the tribal community, the Arab community was a tribal, and the tribal community believed, they strongly believed that the leader should be one of us, my tribe, my family. It would be hard for them to pay allegiance to someone else because their loyalty is first and foremost to their sheikh, to the leader of the tribe, to the chieftain. And Islam could not erase this way of thinking and this tradition easily. Yes, to be honest, listen to this. Yes, some people, they gave up on their past traditions and customs. They threw them away. They embraced the spirit of Islam, the spirit, egalitarian spirit of Islam, that is based on justice, based on equality, based on obedience to God and His apostle. But those were the minority. The majority, they could not give in on that. It was embedded in them. It was part of their life, part of their psyche, part of their character. Hard to give in on these tribal traditions. And this is not something old or new. This happens in every time, in every society. It is happening right now among the Muslim community, Muslim Ummah, and it happened in the past. And not only with Muhammad, it happened with Jesus, it happened with Moses, it happened with Noah, it happened with Abraham, it happened with every single messenger that God sent to the humanity. Tribalism, tribal loyalty. And therefore, the Ansar were also different tribes. One of them was Al-Khazraj, led by Sa'd ibn Ibadah. The others were Al-Aws. Al-Aws were led by Bashir ibn Sa'd, and they had rivalry between them. They had fightings between them. The fightings took almost 100 years between these two tribes in Medina until the Prophet came and he established ceasefire. However, he established ceasefire, but he could not cleanse the hearts from the residue of hate and conflict that did exist for more than 100 years. It's not easy. I tell you a story. A few months ago, I went to Northern Ireland, and I asked someone to take me on a tour to show me the city. And I saw a barrier, a wall, dividing the city. And this local Irishman who was giving me the tour, he said, this barrier here since so many years, and it is very long, and it separates the Catholics from the Protestants. And you see these gates, they are shut during the night, so people cannot cross into each other's neighborhoods. So I said to him, but don't you have a coalition now, a government that represents all? He said, yes, we do. Politically, we work together. But when it comes to here inside, emotionally and psychologically, still the heart is not clean. Still people cannot accept each other. I said to him, when are you going to remove this wall and make it just one city, one neighborhood? He said, this is difficult. People on both sides would not accept this. This is a reality, my friends. This is a reality. And Muslims are human beings, believe me. Muslims did not descend from the sky. They are not angels. Muslims are just like you and me. We are human beings. We have emotions. Sometimes the faith becomes stronger and overtakes. Sometimes emotions become stronger and overtakes our faith. And this happened during the time of the Prophet, during his life, after his life, with him, without him. So the Ansar were two groups, Aus and Khazraj. Aus led by Bashir ibn Sa'ad, Khazraj led by Sa'ad ibn Ibadah, and with them there were also senior members of both tribes. So they sensed that something wrong is happening. And all these sayings by the Prophet that Ali is going to be the successor are not going to be honored by people in the community, because people are waiting to seize the moment and to grab power and take over. So they decided then, in case something like that happens, we have to do something about ourselves. We can't just give in to whomever is going to be the leader or the caliph. We have to do something about it. So their meeting apparently in Saqifat Bani Sa'ida, in that headquarter or assembly place, was precautionary in case something happened and Ali is not the caliph after the Prophet, then we have to appoint an emir, a leader from our own selves. And since they still had rivalry between the two groups who composed the Ansar, the two groups being Aus and Khazraj, there was some jealousy between them, a rivalry. Still this residue there in the heart. It is not cleansed completely. So the Aus did not accept the Khazraj. Neither the Khazraj accepted the Aus. They wanted the leader to be from within their own sub-tribe. So that meeting was not a meeting to determine the Khalifa. That meeting was, in case something goes wrong, then we have a contingency plan. And we know what to do. Why I am saying this? Because in that meeting, great companions of the Prophet were missing, such as Abu Ayyub al-Ansari was not there. Salman al-Farisi was not there. Ammar ibn Yasir was not there. Al-Miqdad was not there. Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman was not there. And many others. Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, was not there. Imam Ali, of course, he was sitting next to the Prophet. He didn't leave him. He was sitting next to his body. He never left the Prophet because the Prophet was more important to him than anything else in this universe. So those people were not there. This is number one. Number two, it's not befitting for the companions to decide the fate and to fight over khilafats while the Prophet is still unburied. It's not befitting. They would not do that. And then, after that, this meeting was not decisive. This meeting was just in a preparation, as a precaution. If something went wrong, so we have some contingency plan. And of course, the Ansar, they knew that the Prophet made it very clear, absolutely clear during his lifetime, that his successor is Ali ibn Abi Talib. And this is beyond argument. All people accepted that during the life of the Prophet. So here, they decided that this meeting has to be secret and confidential, just for the Ansar, not for the Muhajirin. But then somehow, when you investigate the history, when you research, we find out that Umar ibn al-Khattab knew about this meeting somehow. Either he was told by Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, or he had another source telling him that there is a secret meeting taking place to decide the fate of the Caliphate. So he came to the house of the Prophet. Abu Bakr was still inside the house, next to the body of the Prophet. So he called upon him. Abu Bakr said, I'm busy now. He said, no, there is something urgent. You must leave. Come with me. So he pulled him. So now Abu Bakr, Umar ibn al-Khattab, and Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, the three companions of the Prophet, they go to this place of meeting, Saqifa Bani Sa'id. And they make a surprise visit. Ansar were shocked. Who breached this? Who leaked the news? They are not supposed to be here. But of course, they are the companions of the Prophet. So they came inside. And at that time, the Ansar were discussing this affair, that if something like that comes up, who should be the caliph? Sa'ad ibn Ibadah, who was the leader of the Khazraj, and he was an old man. He came to the meeting. He was sick. He could not speak. So he said, I can't raise my voice. This is a big meeting. So one of his sons, he said to one of his sons, stand next to me. I will speak to you, and then you tell the people what I am saying, because I can't raise my voice. So he started speaking. Here, Abu Bakr came, and very politely, with courtesy, he said, listen, Ansar, we are the closest people to the Prophet. We are the Muhajirin. We were the Meccans who stood with the Prophet from day one. We are the Umara, the leaders, and you are the Wizara. You are the aides. So we are group number one, and you are group number two. And the Prophet has to be from us, not from you. This is exactly what he said. I've summarized that story, the incident of Saqifa, in this book. This book was written 10 years ago. And it is named When Power and Piety Collide. And I put that in these pages, in this book. The story, the whole story. If you want to know the details of the story, from the credible sources in the Sunni tradition, I put them in this book. In this book, When Power and Piety Collide. So I'm trying to say it very brief here. So Abu Bakr came, he said, we are the people who have the right to the Khilafat. One of the Ansar, Al-Habbab ibn al-Mundhir, he addressed his community. He said, listen, we were the people who helped the Prophet. We stood with him. We gave our wealth. We gave our life. We were loyal to him from day one. We received him. We helped him. So the Emir should be from us, not from those people. Then Umar came. Umar, Al-Habbab ibn al-Mundhir said, if worse come to worse and you don't accept us, Muhajirin, you don't accept us, the Ansar, to be the successors, one of us to be the caliph, then minna amirun wa minkum amir. You choose a caliph and we choose a caliph. Umar was so angry here. He said, no, that would not happen. That would not happen. لا يجتمع سيفان في غمد. والله لا ترضى العرب. Arab does not accept that someone from non-Quraysh to be the caliph. So the caliph has to be from Quraysh, and we are the closest people to the Prophet. فَمَنْ يُنَازِعُنَا سُلْطَانُ مُحَمَّدٍ وَنَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُهُ وَعَشِيرَتُهُ. Who can argue with us when it comes to the succession to Muhammad while we are his family and his tribe? Imagine, Umar is saying we are his family and his tribe. If this is the case, then Ali should be the caliph, because Ali is the true family of the Prophet. Ali is the closest one to the Prophet, closest one spiritually, mentally, socially, and by blood too. No one was closer than Ali to the Prophet. And then almost a fight broke in that meeting. Almost a fight broke, and almost there was a bloodshed inside that meeting, because both the groups were arguing, sometimes with violence. Violence was used. It wasn't a peaceful meeting. It wasn't shura. Shura, when people sit together and discuss in a civil way. And I ask you please to investigate this and read it yourself. Please. Please read this yourself to find out what happened. It was not a peaceful meeting. It was full of commotion and threats and assaults. Physical assaults took place, and coercion and force was used in that meeting of Saqifa, which I am going to elaborate on it further, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.